My opening weekend of the brick and mortar, my app didn't work. It was the biggest investment that I had ever made. It was like 30 grand.
Jeez. Today's guest is a founder of Housework. Her journey is a masterclass in intention, community building, protecting your IP, and betting entirely on yourself. As you created Housework, what were you protecting at that time?
If I'm going to put in this effort to create this modality, it's my own creation, then I need to own it.
From creating her own format while working at SoulCycle to venturing out on her own and launching an app and to opening her first flagship studio in New York City.
Taking calculated risks. Like, I knew that it was a risk to work with this person. There were red flags.
Can we speak of some of those red flags?
So many.
Hi, I'm Ari. Welcome to the Sweat and Equity Show, where I take you behind the scenes of fitness and wellness entrepreneurs who are building, growing, and scaling their businesses. Today's guest is truly an epitome of taking an idea, taking a concept, and running with it. I am excited to unpack all of this today. Let's get into it. Sydney.
Hi.
Welcome to the Sweat and Equity Show, girl.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to unpack so much of what you've done. And I've been following your journey for quite some time. I got to experience your class most recently. Yeah. I'm feeling it. Recently as in yesterday. And I'm excited to unpack because there's so much that you've done and how you've navigated the industry. So to get started, let's actually run it back to how you started in fitness, because this is actually your second career.
Yes.
And I know that that is something that's going to resonate with a lot of people. So share with us the beginnings.
Okay. So I thought I wanted to do advertising. I went to Emory Goizueta undergrad business school and got a job at a big agency in New York. And I hated it. I was just like looking, because I mean, obviously you start at the bottom level of anything that you do, but I was, looking at my bosses being like, I don't see myself doing that like in the future. That's not my goal. So I pivoted, I left, I did this, I went into PR for a little bit, liked that definitely better because I thought it was a little bit more creative, but ultimately hated sitting at a desk all day, wasn't for me. And while this was happening, I was going to SoulCycle as like my therapy, as like my release. And I just loved how it made me feel. It made me feel like so present. And I was able to like get lost in the music. And at some point I was like, I wonder if I can do this and like give people that same feeling. Also kind of funny, I used to be afraid of public speaking, so kind of funny that I like chose this path. But yeah, I ended up after a year of like religiously going, deciding to audition and got in. And then that was kind of like, the end of it and the end of like, my desk job and into fitness, and really built up my career at SoulCycle once I was there. And I'm sure we'll get into that, but like really built my community. And then eventually along the way started Housework.
So I'm curious if there was a moment being at PR, marketing, that you're like, this
honestly,
ain't it.
Yeah, like so many. I mean, I remember, this is funny, this is going to date me big time, but we all had to get iPhones.
Okay.
And like, I was used to like BBM and like BlackBerry world and like getting
the
pin. And I remember like, there was just so much pressure, and then I had to learn this new device, and I just was like, oh my God, like I am gonna like die. Like this is horrible. And so that was like one. And then, I mean, this isn't really like the moment when I knew it wasn't for me, but I was auditioning and I was in the training program. Nothing was set in stone at all, but I was definitely like, in the training program. And I was still working part-time for the PR firm because I was trying to help them out while they found somebody else. And I just remember my boss was sending me passive aggressive emails from like 12 feet away from her office. And I was 24 years old. I picked up my stuff and I left. And I was like, I'll see you later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is pretty like ballsy when you think about it.
Very bold.
Yeah, very bold.
Okay. And I think that tracks for what you've done beyond that and creating Housework. So let's actually get into that.
Yeah.
You're at SoulCycle. You've been an instructor, and I'm gonna let you get into this story.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they approached you on creating a new format. I think there was a new program or initiative they had within SoulCycle that ultimately led to Housework. So let's get into that because there's so much there.
Yeah. So basically, SoulCycle knew that people were starting to cross-train. That was becoming, a trend in the market. And they also knew that their SoulCycle instructors had cult followings. And so they decided, let's utilize these instructors and get people to cross-train with us doing other modalities. So they opened this location called Soul Annex. It was right on 19th Street. Okay. 1 block away from where I am now. And they were like, Sydney, you got certified in Pilates, which I had gotten certified like the year before. Can you come up with something Pilates based for Annex? Okay. So I said, yeah. And as I was coming up with it, I knew I wanted it to focus on house music because that's my thing. And that also was kind of what I was known for at SoulCycle too. I knew I wanted it to take the principles of Pilates and how it made my body feel, but a little bit more cardio, a little bit more dance inspired, and honestly, just more fun. Yes. More fun, more challenging. Because I always loved how Pilates made me feel, but it still is a hard workout for me to kind of zone out during. Like I'm thinking about things because I find it boring.
It's a little
slow. That's not my energy. I'm like, go, go, go. Yep. So yeah, I came up with Housework and I loved the name. I loved the whole thing. And I was like, you know what? Like, if this does become something, I want to own it. If I'm creating my own method, like no one's helping me do this. Yes, they're giving me a platform and a space, but like they're not doing it. So I said, I'm happy to do this, but it's mine. We'll, document it that if anything happens with me, with this, it's Housework's, owned by Sydney and you guys can't really do anything with it. And they said, great. So yeah, so I started teaching at Soul Annex, and it was really cool because a lot of the SoulCycle community were great at, moving their body on a bike, but they had no idea how to lift a weight or hold a plank or anything like that. So it was really cool to watch my clients get stronger in a different way, and myself too. So it did that for a year, and then there was issues with the space. SoulCycle was kind of focused on the at-home bike, which was launching soon, and they decided to not continue with the studio after 1 year. Okay. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll keep doing it though on the side. So I, was teaching at insert studio that had stuff like this, Performix House, Lululemon Basement, this place called Fit House, and I continued to do it. But yeah, I'm glad and then obviously, we've come a long way since then, but I definitely was kind of forward thinking. Yeah, with owning it.
And I want to hone in on that because it is very rare. When you first told me, or when I first read about you taking that ownership very early on, there are plenty, as you know, fitness and wellness instructors working in these studios who are creating their own methods, and nowhere near is there a thought of owning.
Totally.
So I actually I'm curious of what knowledge you had around that. So as you created Housework, what were you protecting at that time that you felt in your heart was a long-term strategy? Yeah. And why was it very important for you to do that early on as you think about where it is now?
Well, first of all, I thought the name was genius. And I was like, I'm immediately trademarking this if it doesn't exist, which it didn't, which is insane.
Wow.
So that was first of all. Second of all, my dad is a lawyer. So I was always exposed to like that and conflict and, IP and whatever. So it was like very top of mind for me to make sure that if I'm going to put in this effort to create this modality, like I said, that nobody's helping me with, like it's my own creation, then I need to own it. And to be honest with you, I never like at the beginning with Housework, I never was like, this is my dream to own my own studio and my own thing. I just knew that I had something with it and like just in case wanted to protect it. I always knew, like even back to college, I was like, I'll own my own company someday. Like I just always felt like an entrepreneur. My uncle's an entrepreneur. I always thought that it was really interesting to own I'm a very like independent, bold personality. And I was like, I don't really want to work for anybody. Like, so, but it's funny because I never really like knew what that thing was. And to be honest, while I was at SoulCycle and I was there for 12 years, I never really thought that I would leave. Like I was always like, oh, Housework's this side thing, but I never was like, oh, it's going to get big enough that, I will do that exclusively. I loved being at SoulCycle and I really like loved the company, and I never thought that I would outgrow it until I did.
Yeah. What did you, so I'm curious for those who may be creating their methods and working for the bigger companies. Can you recall just what that conversation was like for SoulCycle to be like, oh yeah, of course. Like, was there anything you felt that you did that was important in communicating you wanted to get ownership of it, or was it just an easy process?
I can't fully remember. I think it was pretty easy because I think it was like a paperwork thing. Okay. And I think, they were like, oh yeah, sign X and Y. And I was like, actually, can we change this to say this? Because just in case I want to keep doing this and you guys aren't doing Annex anymore or whatever, And then, so that was one thing. And then the separate thing was like, okay, like, let's set up an LLC. Like, let's get the trademark going. And none of that's cheap, by the way.
No, it's not.
It's not. So clearly, I guess I did think it would go somewhere. I just didn't really know how far.
And that's the best. It's giving gut instinct.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming in your trademark, there's the logo.
There's the logo, and crazy. The logo is still the same logo, which I love. I'm wearing it on my neck. I have a Housework logo, but I love the logo. I literally paid $99 for this logo on a website called 99 Designs.
Oh yes.
And it's just like, it just works and I just love it. But yeah, I trademarked separately the name and the logo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm trying to remember if we spoke about it or I read it in my research, there's something about the name that I wanted to touch base on beyond you coming up with it. You were really intentional about separating the brand Housework from Sydney.
Yes.
Can you talk about, it's giving long-term vision.
Yeah.
Navigated this all, but can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. So I did. That was a very intentional thought to make it Housework and not Sydney.
Okay.
I actually think at one point it was Housework by Sydney Miller, but then I kind of dropped that. But yeah, I was like, if I'm putting all this energy into a brand, at some point I might want to step away from it. And I want it to have its own identity that's not tied to me because, I mean, I don't need to name them. There's plenty of workouts that are so-and-so's name.
And it's hard.
And it's hard because then you want that person. And what's really cool that's starting to happen right now is just talking about this this week is I'm meeting a lot of people that don't even know who I am. And they're coming to Housework because they heard about Housework and they don't even know about me or my story or anything, which is like pretty cool.
That's like success for you.
I'm like, okay. Like they have no idea that I'm the owner, like at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that because having been in your studio, I know we'll get into like the hiring of other instructors. Like it's actually set up very well so you can bring in other people to teach the method, which is what I believe has so much power. Okay. So let's go from SoulCycle to pandemic.
Yeah.
I believe this is where there was a switch of SoulCycle Sydney to Housework Sydney, where there's a pandemic, and this is where you went all in on Housework.
Yes.
Tell us about that transition.
Yeah. Well, it was like beautiful timing because up until that point, it was such a side hustle for me. I mean, I was probably teaching like 14 SoulCycle classes a week and then maybe like 2 or 3 Housework, something like that. It's hard. How am I going to focus on it when I'm doing that much, right? Mm-hmm. So the pandemic was the first time where that was completely out of the picture and all I could do was focus on Housework. And even just from a creative and class programming perspective, I used to, because I was only teaching like, a couple times a week, I would keep my choreography the same. I want to say it was for a month.
Wow.
At the time. Okay. Yeah. Something like that. I think it was a month. And that, that made sense because I wasn't teaching it that much. And, but then with the pandemic, I'm like, okay, this is all I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So I could come up with new choreography weekly. And even in that choreography, I just got so much more creative with like the dance elements and I just had more time. Yeah. So I think that the workout itself has evolved so much over time. There's like been different eras of housework. And it's actually interesting now, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but like, you know, now that I'm catering to a kind of a bigger and newer audience, it's almost in a way going back to what it used to be at its roots, which was like a little bit simpler. Because I'm kind of like starting at, you know, square one with a new audience.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually want to hone in. I'm curious, when you say new audience, what is the new audience versus old?
New meaning people, like I mentioned, that don't even know who I am, and they just heard that this housework workout is new and cool and fun. And also, you know, old meaning like my Zoom squad that was taking classes with me during the pandemic daily on Zoom, you know, coming to my housework retreats, really helped me build this strong community. Those people that have been with me for like 6 years, they've seen, you know, they've really gotten stronger with me. And at one point, you know, some of the choreography that we were doing was like wild and like so challenging. They're rocking it. Yeah. So like, you know, I look back at that and I'm like, oh my God, we were doing that. Like, that's crazy. So, you know, now I have to kind of take it back a little bit and be like, all right, let's just do foundations, you know?
Yeah. And even as you talk about Zoom, so that stood out as well as I was learning about what it looked like for you to build community. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you chose Zoom over live stream.
I did.
Talk about that, because I think that's very important.
I did. I did have the option to have live stream on the app, which now I do, and it's in the way that I wanted it to be, which is two-way camera. But I just find that the connection is so different when you can see somebody and somebody can see you, and it creates more accountability. It creates more connection. I can not just call your name out, but I can, you know, see you. Or even if your camera is off, I can, you know, I know you're there with me in that moment, versus on a live stream, I'm just still talking to myself, right? Like you might be there, you might not be there. I don't really know. So I just think that it creates more connection between what's going on with me and what's going on with you. And that was really, really important to me. And that's the reason why I didn't do live stream up until recently with the studio, only because I had the option with the two-way camera.
Yeah.
So people do have the option, and I can like see their name, their, you know.
For it. Yeah. And as you speak about the two-way camera, can we talk about the app that you built to make that happen without having any technical skills or any of that? You're like, I have this community, I'd say a cult-like community at this point, where they're like, okay, we love Sydney, well, we want to do her workouts. And you're like, I need to create an app to actually bring my community together.
Yeah.
What was that process like for you, having no knowledge of creating an app?
Yeah, I'm like the least tech savvy person that has an app ever. But, you know, I was teaching 8 a.m. or 8:30, I think, Zoom workouts every day in my lovely parents' office, blasting house music in their home. And not everyone can take that time, especially, you know, if you're on the West Coast, if you're whatever. So at some point I'm like, you know what, I need to have some on-demand content. I need to have more options for people that want to do this workout, but they can't. So I looked into different providers that build apps and ended up deciding to do it. But it was like the biggest investment that I had ever made at the time. It was like, I want to say it was like 30 grand.
Jeez.
Okay. And I was like, oh, I had never spent that amount of money on anything to that point. And I'm more of a risk taker. I am very close with my parents. My dad is kind of more like me. He's more of like risky, but, you know, smart. Yep. My mom is like completely risk averse. It's like, whatever bad thing is going to happen, like, let's talk about it. And so she was like, I don't know. My dad was like, well, what's your downside? Like, can you afford, like, if it doesn't go well, you know? And I was like, yeah, like, it would suck. It wouldn't be great, but like, I'll survive. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, like, let's do it. And it was it was an amazing decision. I'm so glad I did it. It helped me grow my audience, you know, well beyond just like the East Coast. And I still have it today. So it was a great.
Definitely worth the investment.
Definitely worth the investment.
Do you recall what you were looking into for the perfect app partner? Because there are so many people who have online communities and they may be trying to figure out what app works for what they want to build and show up. So what was important to you? I mean, you still have the app now. So
I still have the app now. So back then, I will say there wasn't that many options.
Okay.
So I was kind of like, all right, what fitness apps do I know that look good and who do they use? Let me go talk to that brand.
Yep.
Now there are so many and so much more affordable because there's so many.
Yeah.
And for me, with my new platform, it was really important to have that 2-way camera. So that was like I ended up switching. I've switched a few times between providers, but that was my priority with the studio.
Okay. And if there was anything that you can change from the version of Sydney who did that initial app, is there anything that you would do differently with creating that app?
Honestly, I wish that I had a better like organizational system of storing, what's the word? Descriptions, thumbnails, tags, because when you have to switch platforms, which I did, and most people do, I think, you need things to be super organized, and like they weren't. So that was just such a struggle every time. Now I'm in a better place with that. It's more organized. So if I have to do it again, like we're all set. And then I would say also the second thing would be learning how to do everything myself. I think I put that on, my assistant, and I think it would have been more helpful for me to have a better understanding of everything
before you bring someone else to do it. What do you believe is the importance of that? Because I think that's just important when we talk delegation.
Yeah, I think you have to know what you need to find somebody to do it for you. Right now, I'm learning that with my studio, I'm there all the time. I am training front desk. I am training instructors. I am checking in people. I'm cleaning things. Like I'm doing everything, right? I mean, I have people to do things too, but I'm doing it all. And it's good because like now when I go to hire a manager or a front desk lead or a sales associate, like I know exactly what I'm looking for and if you're going to be a good fit for it.
Okay. I think it's time to get into studio.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you're going to light up on this one because this is your baby.
Yes.
You have this online community and you obviously had to make a decision where like, it's time to open up this physical space. What was that moment for you when you're like, it's time to create a physical space, flagship studio? Yeah.
So a couple of things happened. First of all, I noticed over the years, of course, the online community was changing. People were going back to in-person workouts. People were just kind of, getting back into that energy of, they still wanted to work out online, but they also really enjoyed going back into studios once it was safe and people were doing so. And also office culture came back, people were working not from home as much anymore. And aside from that, I was just getting a little bit stale with everything. I'm like, okay, like we've done the pop-ups, like we've done the Zoom workouts, we've done it all. And the most fun thing for me was always the in-person moments and connecting with people on the retreats and the pop-ups. So I knew I wanted to be doing more of that. And I was doing more of that in like 2024. Like I was coming to New York all the time to do pop-ups.
And you were living in Miami?
And I was living in Miami at the time, yeah. I used to live in New York before the pandemic, moved to Miami during the pandemic. So I was like, why not? And then I kept coming in and out of New York. So it was like 2024 where I was really starting to think about what would that look like? Would I do it in Miami? Would I do it in New York? Ultimately, what happened is actually, and I'm going to put it in air quotes if you're not watching me, an investor, came to me and was like, let's do this together. I'll help you. And it was an immediate yes, right? Because it's like, it was something that was already on my mind. And now I had an opportunity to like go do it with help.
Okay.
So it made it an easy decision. The second piece of it that happened was when looking for a space, like I said, was not fully sold on New York. I was like, I know I have a stronger audience in New York than Miami just because I was there for, a decade. built my fitness following at SoulCycle there. But Miami has a booming fitness scene. Now it's even bigger, but it was really like starting to grow. And I love Miami. I really do. I hope to head back there at some point. So I was like, I'll find the perfect place. I'll just find the perfect place, wherever that is. And I was walking in New York. It was the fall of 2024 and was looking at another studio space, which fell through, which I was kind of bummed about because it was a great location right on 18th Street, also further west. And I love that area too, because it meant something to me. I started my career teaching at SoulCycle Union Square on 18th between Broadway and 5th. And that studio was really meaningful for me. It was like my home studio. Anyway, I'm walking down that street, the old SoulCycle Union Square. There are men putting for lease signs up. And I just got full body chills. And I was like, oh my God, I need to find out. This is it. Like I have to have this location. And that was it. I spent the next like several months getting that location.
Yeah. So now let's actually drill into what that process was, because it's a first. You're opening up the studio. And I'm sure there are so many learned lessons you can speak about, but can you walk us through the process of finding that studio to actually being in a place where you are constructing?
Yeah.
What did that look like for you to take it from the studio is one that I'm locked in on to launching and all the in-betweens?
Yeah. So first of all, a lot of legal back and forth with the contract itself between two things, my business partner and I, former business partner and I, and the lease itself. We're in a big, the company that owns this building is massive. So you can imagine huge, lengthy document. Again, very luckily, my dad is a lawyer, so I had that going for me. I still am his neediest client, but yeah, thanks, Dad. And he helped me so much just get both of those in the right place. But it took months. We did not sign that lease until end of December.
Okay.
From finding the location early September. It was a long time. And then once it was secure, it was branding, new website, the back end of everything, like hiring instructors. It was only me. Yeah. That was crazy. And then, vendors for everything, the construction. I mean, luckily it was a fitness studio, so there was like less to do, but there was still a lot to do.
Yeah.
There's still a lot. But like lighting, paint color, the way I agonized over this paint color, like I had like, I think some people started to know Housework was coming because like, you had just the blank glass and then there's just like 20 different swatches of pink on the wall. And it's like, what's that?
And I would say, having visited the space, I mean, what screams, so the kudos to you, is just the intention with how the colors are, the designs to the locker rooms, to when you first walk in. How did you know who to find for vendors? Was there a process? Was it connection or access to people who are already doing this in the city?
Yeah. People that are already doing it, different fitness people, asking around. Like, I went to people that I knew had done it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say is something small that you obsessed over in this building of Housework that most people might overlook, but believe it made a huge difference in Housework, the studio, so far?
Ooh, I would say, first of all, the lighting. It was really important to me that it felt like a club.
Okay.
On the inside of the studio, but that it also looked good on camera. So that was a whole thing. What else did I obsess about that was a small thing? I mean, honestly, like the paint color. I spent so long deciding that paint color. And I love it. Noble Blush. It's called Noble Blush.
Noble Blush, friends. Noble Blush.
Noble Blush. And then I mean, like the obvious stuff of like my instructors.
Yeah. Okay.
That was big. Yeah.
So let's talk about the instructors, because this is also now hiring. You went from literally doing it in your parents' living room to having this physical space that in your heart you knew was going to be beyond yourself.
Yeah.
And you got to hire. So as you thought about what that looked like to have a client experience, someone walks through the door, from what I know, you have someone at the front desk. Who would you say are some of the most important hires that you've had in the beginning? I'm sure you're still learning along the way, but who were those important firsts to be able to open those doors and give a good experience?
Yeah. Well, Katie, who works with me, who's like our kind of like community manager, customer support, admin for me, she honestly does everything. She wears so many hats. I love working with her. And that was like somebody that I hired pretty soon before opening. And that made the world of a difference. We also just communicate all day, every day. You have to hire people that you like talking to, period. You have to want to hang out with them because you're going to be talking to them a lot.
Yeah.
And then the instructors. Yeah. I did a lot of research. I asked around who's good, who has the right energy. And I spent a long time finding the right people for that. And now I've hired since so many other instructors because I've also learned even more what I need from doing it.
Yeah. Why do you think it took so long to find the right instructors for your studio?
I think I came into things thinking I needed one thing when actually I needed something totally different. And it's interesting because somebody like myself, I didn't start as a fitness person. I became a fitness person. I used to have, I used to be in PR, I used to be in advertising, and I started as a loyal SoulCycle rider. I lived for SoulCycle, right? And when I first started hiring instructors, I wanted to hire people who were fitness instructors and who had that experience of, engaging with rooms and teaching and had that presence and had, an Instagram following or whatever built in. And that's all great. But at the end of the day, when you're starting a new company, you need a hard worker and you need a team player. And I learned that. And so that's at the forefront of my mind with my new hires. And I'm actually so excited. I hired my first client, which was something that I was a little bit unsure about at the beginning. And, but then it's you go back to myself. I was a client before I taught, Yeah. And that's going so well so far. And it's really exciting to see how the community responds to that too, because they know her. And so they're excited for her, for her and everything.
Yeah, I love that. And what would you say in your search for instructors, what would be 2 to 3 things that you look for beyond the talent? Because they could be capable, right? They can rock a room, but what is also important to you?
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, is the why. So why are you doing this? I think that it has to come down to serving other people and helping, people live their best life. My mission at Housework is to build confidence in women. And that is done through movement to the beat, to the beat of the music and the whole thing that we do. But it really is about instilling confidence. And so I need somebody's reason that they want to teach to be about helping people. Otherwise, how do I expect that you're going to show up and get that accomplished, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, I kind of alluded to, is somebody that's just down, team player, will wear all the hats, will do whatever it takes to create that experience without an ego. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And then I would say third is just openness and willingness to learn. Somebody who is open to doing things in a different way. We are ever changing and growing. And I've kind of hinted at before, I've changed the way that I've done things. I think we're all allowed to change the way we do things. So I need somebody who's down to what, we did that, but we're gonna do it this way now.
Yeah. And I imagine, I'm sure you hear this or have experience. You may not feel that there's someone as committed and dedicated as yourself, as the founder.
Well, of course.
Right? It's but I'm assuming you're trying to find the closest to it.
Exactly. Which is why I was you know what? Now I understand why brands hire their clients and their because who's going to be more of an advocate than the person that already was? right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. So one thing you referenced was also going into this studio with a co-founder.
Yes.
Is there anything you're down to share on what that looked like going into it? Now is former co-founder, so it sounds like you went through a process to have 100%
Yes.
ownership. Congrats to you, my
Thank
girl.
you.
So whatever you're willing to share, I think what stands out is, what was that going into a partnership? And then when you look retrospectively, what was it that you would have changed or any learned lessons you had as going into someone?
Yeah. Well, I think it made it really easy for me to take this risk that I kind of wanted to do for a while. So it got me to do the thing. Luckily, everything in writing was very much so that if it didn't work out, this business relationship, I still owned Housework in full. Like, he did not get any of that.
Was that Dad's doing?
It was Dad's doing for sure.
Dad.
Yeah, like that contract was
Wow.
very much protecting me, which again, it was like, all right, if this goes south, I'd be really upset and my ego would be bruised, but like I wouldn't really lose the whole thing that I built. So again, it made it easy to say yes. What I realized is that, well, first of all, it just was a terrible fit in so many ways. Nobody really like knows that my last year of opening was horrible behind the scenes in the sense of like what I was dealing with while this like pretty pink studio is up and running. Like I'm literally just going through hell with this business partner every single day. And eventually got out of it at the end of last year and now I fully own it. Which also was like a big decision of like, all right, so do I want to fully own this? And do I want to keep this going? And, because now it's all me, right? Like there's nobody else, which there wasn't really anyone else for most of last year.
Is this the quote unquote
investor? Yeah.
Okay.
That had no money.
Okay.
Yeah. But would I do it differently? No, because it got me to do the studio and take that step that I was hesitant on. But if you are somebody who can do it yourself, maybe you can raise a little money, but maybe you can like mostly do it yourself. I just feel like you should. Like, I think now if I were to ever bring on somebody else, it would be because I was going to expand in a way bigger way, not just one studio, but like 10 studios, and I would bring on somebody as like a strategic investor to help me do that.
Can you tell us a little more about that? What is that when you think of a strategic investor?
Yeah. Somebody, I would look for somebody that's done this before with other brick and mortar, not necessarily fitness, but other brands that they've helped expand into bigger markets and cities. Not just financially, but strategically. I would say when you're opening one studio, and I love my studio and it's beautiful and I'm so happy that I have that space. Did it need to be that space? No. Could it have been like a third floor, less impressive startup studio, and would I still have been successful? I really think so. I really do. So I think if you can do it yourself, I would.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. And what does it look like now with financially? So you taking on the full financial burden, were there grants that you have or some of your own funding? What does that look like for upkeep? Because
my own.
Bootstrapping.
Yeah. Okay. Bootstrapping. I mean, you have to be in a place where you're not really making money. So you have to be okay with that. I mean, you hear it all the time, right? Like businesses aren't profitable for a while. So even though we're doing very, very well, like the expenses are real. Yeah. And then you want to put money back into it. You want to advertise. You want to, spend to grow because you have to. So you have to be in a place that you can afford to do that.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got myself there because I had no overhead for so long.
And what do you feel like you learned about yourself in this process, like as a leader, decision making, in a very misaligned partnership?
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I learned that I clearly want to do this really badly, because if I think anyone else would have walked away so long ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, now it's good, but like it was so hard. And I learned that, I can do really hard things, but also show up with a smile on my face and ice that whole thing out. Like, no one knew what was going on last year. Like, not my team, not my clients, like nobody. And so it proved to me that I can, do hard things and also be successful.
Yeah.
And that I can do it myself, honestly. Which is why I ended up taking the big step of like, fuck it. Yeah. Like, I'm going to own it now, and I'm going to do it all myself. Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think, sometimes what I'll see is sometimes people wait too long. So I'm glad that you got to a point where it sounded like within a year, maybe?
It was like, it was literally the whole time. So like, I would say April to December. Yes. So like 8 months.
Okay.
I also think that like, taking calculated risks, right? Like, I knew that it was a risk to work with this person. There were red flags. Like, we all saw them, like my dad. But again, the contract was so good that it was like worth the risk.
Okay. Can we speak of some of those red flags that stood out? Even if it's like a top 3.
So many.
Man.
So many. Just not knowing enough about, never doing this before.
Okay.
And not knowing enough about the industry, and not having the same vision for what this brand was going to be. I think my mindset has always been like, this is, high-end boutique fitness, niche, not trying to be anything else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Probably not trying to expand to that many other cities, maybe a few key markets, but like more focused on the brand and collaborations and partnerships and what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I think that this person's vision was much smaller minded and much more like, let's insert big gym that has classes like, 12, 14 different classes all day and no quality control. It's just like, we're not on the same page.
Yeah. And I think so, even as you say that, I think what's important is you've obviously had a clear vision for you to know what you were misaligned on. So it's equally as important to not just go with someone else's. You're like, yeah, that doesn't I don't have that vision for Housework. So kudos to you on having that level of clarity, seriously. Before we move on from like the studio, I think the studio is always going to be a topic of conversation. Can we talk about the real and the raw of just what life looked like as you were opening up a studio, right? Like, I'm sure you are locked in. There are a ton of hours. Like, truly, what is the real and raw required opening up a physical space?
Yeah. It's like your baby. So like, it's like late nights, early mornings, no sleep, no anything else, no time for anything else at all. And like, obviously, as most entrepreneurs are like, new businesses, like there's going to be problems. So like, and they're always time sensitive. Yeah. So like, my opening weekend of the brick and mortar, my app didn't work. So it's like, I'm in person with all these people that are so excited. It's like the biggest day of my life, while simultaneously I am panicking because my half the business, that's like the online thing, isn't working. So I'm like teaching my opening class and then like on the phone being like, what is going on? Like, let's get this going. So I would say like, yeah, you're just dropping everything for the business. Like, there's no time for anything else. And that was at the beginning, but like, to be honest, it's goes, like, January this year, January is a huge month for fitness. It was also the first month that I was like the full owner of the studio. So I had no life outside of Housework. Yeah. I was there all the time, and I'm still there all the time. But like, that was a month where there was no semblance of balance at all. Yeah. And I think you have to be okay with that. Like, I consider myself a pretty balanced person. I like to have fun. I like to go out. I think I enjoy life to the fullest. I think that's why housework is what it is, because like fun is really important for me. But it's not always like that. There's moments where there is no balance at all.
Yeah. And what are some of those things that you would say you do to find that balance? You also have a partner as well. And I remember when we briefly spoke, I definitely wanted to touch on this because we spoke about like the importance of having support in some way, even like dating, right? So like because you were so locked in on this, there could be lack of time for dating, but
Definitely.
you did have there is a partner who has been a great support system. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, I was not dating at all when the studio was, the few months up to the studio opening. And then eventually I started to go on some dates right around when I met my boyfriend. But I remember like being on some of these dates and like all I could talk about was housework. What I didn't even like, what else could I talk about, you know? So it's just funny. But no, I met him almost a year ago. Our 1 year is coming up next week. And he is just like so supportive. He is super smart also, like from a business perspective. So he's always down to like talk things through and help me problem solve. And he's always hyping me up. Like he sent some of his coworkers to Housework recently. And it's so like, I don't know what I would, I mean, I didn't have that for so long. I was single for a very long time before him, but it's so much better that like now that I have that support, I really can focus on the business a little bit more because I feel like grounded in that part of my life. And where it's like, before that I was like, housework was, taking off and I'm doing all these things, but like I have no love life, and it's just like, things kind of ebb and flow. Now I'm like, I can really like, I want housework to grow. That's my big focus. Cause like my love life is kind of like, we're good. We're chilling.
Yes. And I love that. And I love how he's out here supporting you.
He is like my biggest cheerleader, which is green flag.
Yes. Kudos to the partners out there. Who are out there supporting. Very big deal. So I would say one thing you just mentioned and what you said was grow.
Yeah.
What do you feel like growth looks like for Housework? Because you've grown, right? You went from online, now you have the physical space. What does growth look like, or at least your vision for it?
I think growth is like having everybody know about Housework. Like I talked to, so many people. I have just scratched the surface. Like I'm sure people listening probably maybe they'd have never heard of it before. And I want it to be like, oh yeah, that is the most fun workout. Like Housework is synonymous with the most fun workout. Oh yeah, that's that house music workout, I want everybody to know that. And I want the online platform and the live streams and, that people can take them from wherever they are. It doesn't just have to be New York. So I want that brand awareness to grow. I really want to open in Miami. So I really, really want to. I'm kind of living that life right now of like Miami, New York. I do have a place that I kept in Miami. I wasn't ready to let it go. And I've been going down once a month and I do community classes and keep my feet kind of, in and out of there. And Miami just makes so much sense. It's like the house music city, I would say. There's nothing like it there. I get asked all the time, like, oh, like, can you teach my bachelorette?
Wow.
And it's like, oh, no, I'm going to be in New York that weekend. Oh, like, what would you recommend that's like it? And I'm like, honestly, I don't have anything to tell you. Like, there's nothing. There's really nothing. It's like just Pilates everywhere.
And they're popping up really
everywhere.
And I can imagine, I feel like you're just given some of the timing that you shared, you were ahead of the game on just Pilates. I feel like Pilates has went through like trend dip.
For sure.
I keep telling people, I'm like, the boom we see now, y'all, the boom has been boom. It happens in ebbs and flows.
Oh yeah.
So actually pretty dope that you've already created your own format.
Yeah.
Do you deal with any like imitators?
Of
your format?
For sure. Yeah. Oh my God. It's always like funny. I'll see people that are like doing my literal choreography on Instagram or TikTok. And I'm like, all right, like that's interesting. I would never teach somebody else's choreography. I think that's weird. But also it's like, you're just never going to be able to do it like I'm going to be able to do it. So whatever, like you have to just let it roll off your back because it's flattering. It's somebody that thinks that, that what I have going on is fun and cool and they want to be a part of it. And you kind of have to just like focus on what you're doing.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about licensing the method itself?
Yeah, I definitely have. I think it's from what I know, it's hard to trademark actual choreography and actual workouts because like I said, my choreography changes all the time, but I can't trademark a squat to a lunge to a twist. That's not like, so that's why there's these big feuds that happen sometimes. And that there was one very recently where people get pissed because, they think somebody's ripping off their method, but there's like not much you can do to protect that from happening.
Yeah.
And I think to be honest, like I get inspired by things that I see online or in a performance and I make it my own. But yeah, it's a fine line.
It is.
It's a fine line for sure.
It is. I've seen people get creative with getting people certified and so forth. But
yes.
That's like an interesting business model.
And that is another business model of like, okay, let me create a housework training, not just for my instructors, but like a broader training, like Zumba, for example.
A lot of work.
Which is a lot of work. And I have thought about that. At this point, I'm not sure it's something I want to do because I just think it gets harder to protect the brand.
Yeah.
But you never know, maybe.
Yeah. And I would say I just appreciate how intentional you are about protecting the brand. Like I feel like that is the common thread.
Yeah.
It's your baby, but you're doing so in a very strategic way. And from what I also gather for you, it's less of just trying to scale something fast and moving in an intentional way, right?
For sure.
Everyone does it differently.
Yeah.
But that's
for
what
sure.
I see for you.
100%. Like I could have launched a hot, I could have made Housework a heated sculpt if I wanted to, right?
You could have.
But I didn't.
No shade.
Yeah, no shade, but like we're good. There's, plenty.
Yeah. Okay. So as we think about what you've built for Housework, and you've obviously went through different seasons and different business models, what advice do you see often given in this industry that you actually disagree with?
Well, similar to what I was saying before of like, I definitely see things, online or, in another performance or whatever to get inspiration from. And I do think that to some extent it's good to like be a student. However, I do not think that you should take other workouts to create your own. Like, I don't think that you should like be like, I want to create my own X and go to all these different workouts to figure out what X is. Like, I do think that it should come from you mostly with like your beliefs, your word choices, your perspective on movement. And I think that that's why there's a lot of these things that like kind of flop because it's just a copy of something else that exists.
Yeah. And even as you say the word copy, I'm like, trigger. Only because I felt so. Even myself coming into the industry, I did feel that a lot of people are doing the same things.
Yes.
You hear this word authenticity. What does that actually mean in the fitness and wellness space? And one of my learned lessons, I think when I first started teaching, especially when you're working for some of like the bigger organizations in fitness, you're taught to kind of how you teach from your voice to your cadence, like everyone else. So it has been really dope, especially you coming from a bigger brand like SoulCycle, what it looked like to create your own authenticity.
Yeah. So I think, look, like, of course, be a student, see what you like, see what you don't like. But I don't think that's a replacement for like what is true to you and what you're going to lead with.
Yeah. And it's also a lot of work to not be you. I don't think anyone talks about that.
I agree. That's so true. That's so
it's
true.
A lot of work. Like there's only so much I feel like there's a cap of like you, when you're just teaching in ways that that's not aligned, you get to a point where like, I don't enjoy this, right?
I agree.
For it. When people hear the name Housework, 5 years from now, what do you want it to represent?
I want it to represent a woman who is super confident in themselves and having fun. And I also want it to be associated with music in general. So like one goal for myself with Housework is to do more like fitness meets music festival, like fitness meets live DJ set. So I think the word housework can almost be like the Housework festival or like the Housework, live DJ event. Yeah. But it has that connotation of like, oh yeah, that's that like hot, confident woman that, loves to vibe to the music.
It's giving Miami.
It is giving me.
You heard it here, friends. First, Housework.
Yes,
festival. Okay,
Housework Festival, Miami.
I love that. It really is. Okay, so I'm gonna switch gears really quick. Want to have some fun?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you through what I call sweat and equity, this or that.
Oh,
give you
fun.
2 options. Don't overthink it. If you can share the option, and then even if it's 1 to 2 sentence on why that's why. Okay. First one is niching down or casting a wide net.
Niching down, for sure. Niching down. I mean, that's what I literally did with Housework. I think you have to know your identity and be the best at that thing.
Okay. Bootstrapping or raising capital?
Bootstrapping, for sure. Lesson learned.
Building in public or build in private?
Ooh. I'm going to say build in public because I think putting yourself out there and failing fast is better than like never actually taking action. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are, we're perfectionists in our own way and we like to wait until things are perfect. And I think that it's actually better to learn quicker and just like get it rolling in public.
Yeah. And you also have a marketing background. So I'm sure
I do.
How you think of it.
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with your thoughts on that?
Probably. Yeah.
You do a lot of storytelling, which
yes,
you love as well.
Thank you.
That's your superpower.
Thanks.
Organic growth or paid marketing?
Organic, of course. I mean, paid is, I think doing some paid is important when you're launching, but like ultimately if you're a small brand, you just don't have the budget to compete with somebody that has the ability to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. Word of mouth is always going to be it. Like whoever you touch is going to touch so many other people.
Yeah. And side note, what do you feel like is working in marketing right now as you think of like that organic?
I think like just real people that are engaging with products. And I think like UGC is like, blowing up obviously because people trust people. So I think, people want to hear that authentic experience from other people that they can see themselves in.
Yeah, I agree. Lead with confidence or lead with curiosity?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say confidence.
Confidence.
Yeah. Well, I think curiosity is always important to be able to be better, but I think confidence because you have to be like a little delusional. You got to be a little delusional to like get what you want. So I think you have to just go for it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to say is delulu until it's true.
Yes, I love that. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. Move fast and adjust or move slow and be intentional?
I don't know if this is the right answer. I'm more move fast and adjust because kind of like I said, I think we can just put ourselves in this holding pattern when we try to be perfect and wait for the right moment. And I've just, in my choices, been a little bit more bold and quick to act.
Yeah. Love that. Depth with a few clients or reach with many?
Ooh. Well, ideally both, honestly. But I think what's more fulfilling is the depth with a few clients.
Yeah. Okay. Fulfillment. I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
Follow your vision or listen to your audience?
Ooh, follow your vision. For sure, follow your vision. Your audience is going to change what they think all the time because of trends or what they're going through in the moment. And of course, you want to cater to your audience, but I think you have to follow your vision and instinct.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I really do.
How do you, I'm curious with that, how do you kind of cut through the noise if you were to take any guidance from the audience? Because audience always has something to say. So how do you know what advice to actually?
I think if it's like repeated and you're hearing it all the time and, then that's something to pay attention to. But like, I think you have to just go with what you know is true. Otherwise, it's not going to be as good. Like if I, for example, I've gotten a lot of requests over the years for, pre and postnatal, which is something that I definitely want to do. But I'm not there in my life right now. And if you notice, most fitness brands, founders, people like me, they're launching their pre and postnatal program when they're going through it themselves.
That's exactly
And I tried to get certified a long time ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago. I paid, I got the course, I did the thing. I actually did get certified in like group pre and postnatal, which is like, whatever. If I were to really do it, I would want more. I would want a broader understanding of everything. But I like the big course. Every time I picked up that book, I was like, oh, I just like don't want to be doing this. And it's because I'm not there. So if I were to create this pre and postnatal because you guys want it, I just don't think it's going to be that good because like I'm not in it.
Yeah. And I think that goes to also your storytelling superpower. You would be taking people on a journey with this product that you create. Right?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll do that when I'm there.
Yeah, I know that's right. Consistency or innovation?
These are good. These are hard. Consistency, I would say, because before you innovate, I think you have to get good at that one thing. Like I had one format for so long with Housework. Now I have 3, but like you got to like nail that thing down that you're good at first.
Yeah. Yeah. Last one here.
Okay.
Licensing your method or keeping it exclusive?
For now, keeping it exclusive, just because, like I said, ownership and really not wanting to dilute what that Housework experience looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. You were good, nice and speedy with those questions. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
I know what I want.
Yes, and I see that. I see that clearly. So kudos. All right, now to end things out, I want you to speak or think about the past version of Sydney, who's sitting in that PR job. What would you tell her?
I would tell her to keep doing what she wants to be doing and that she is going to figure this out. You do not have to be in a job that you're not happy with. You do not have to be miserable for 12 hours a day. And I think like little Sydney knew, like she knew that she was meant for something more than that. But I think like there's just been so many different versions of myself. And even with this studio where I was like pretty sure that I could do it, but like not 100% sure that I can do it. And I wish that I had a little bit more of that confidence that like, oh, of course you can do it. You always do it. Like look at everything that you've done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure she hears that, she sees it, she feels
Yeah.
it. So with that said, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for betting on yourself, which ultimately is betting on your community and changing the fitness game. We are rooting for you here, Sweat and Equity and more. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yay!